Please welcome to the stage at Webit Festival, Aaron Harvey, co-founder and executive creative director.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Thanks for having me here. Thanks for the hospitality. I'm Aaron. I'm a co-founder of Ready, Set, Rocket. We're a digital agency based in New York City. We get to work with a lot of leading brands in fashion and finance and sports and entertainment. And so this has given us a really broad spectrum of kind of knowledge base as to how to create connected experiences for brands. So obviously it's a buzzword. Our aspiration is to be makers of connected experiences. I think the entire state of the marketing industry right now is a bit aspirational and hypothetical. I think no one's actually really great yet at making connected experiences. No one's really great yet at using VR. But I think it's a really exciting time to be trying to figure that out. So as marketers, we just have a huge opportunity to be really passionate and playful with what we're doing right now. I wanted to first note one of the biggest issues that we see working with especially larger corporations is the biggest disconnect to making a connected experience is actually the organizational structure itself. Right now, the way that organizations are set up is they're not set up to succeed in making connected experiences. And the reason for that is all the fragmentation in creating marketing strategies has led to personally incentivizing people to perform really well within their channel. And it's led to an obsession with micro metrics and micro conversions. And in result, departments and groups aren't playing nice with each other, and they're kind of missing this bigger opportunity. So if we get called into a fashion brand to work on social media, reach a new consumer, we're going to get resistance and pushback from the e-commerce group a lot of times when we want to see how much revenue we're actually contributing to e-commerce because they don't want to necessarily share that credit. So, you know, the first point to this is when you are trying to think about creating a connected experience for a consumer, you have to be putting the customer first, and that means you have to be thinking more about how you're going to serve the customer across channels versus how you're going to get bigger budgets and bonuses for your department to do more and more things. So that's an endemic problem, a systematic problem that we see. So what we like to do is kind of look at 5 general areas. It's really just a framework. And you can fill this kind of out or take this approach in a very simplistic way to get it going, but you can also go extremely deep and get really deep into complicated metrics and data opportunities and things like that. So 5 kind of areas of focus that we normally look at. First and foremost is putting the customer first and truly segmenting audiences. So today we heard quite a bit about how do you segment your customer in context of the path to purchase and what messaging do you want to send at the right time. But I think we need to go beyond that and say, like, what segments are we serving really well right now? Who's currently buying from us and what do we know about them? And then what are our growth segments? So we work with one of the largest sports leagues in the world, and we work with them on international products. And you know, we have our diehard fan. We know that this core diehard fan is going to use our apps and our sites, is going to, you know, is a junkie for more information, is trying to get the latest stats, the deepest editorial, going to all the sports aggregators and blogs, playing in fantasy. And that's a specific, you know, attribution or sort of like a set of attributes or behaviors that we know about this person. But that's not our growth segment. So our growth segment is actually the casual fan. The casual fan who has a hometown sports team, they follow it casually, but what they're really into is big player moments, cultural moments, things that kind of make them feel a part of this, you know, fandom. So if you start to think then, if you're creating an application or you're designing data on the back end, like what are you actually going to serve? How are you going to personalize the content to draw someone in to use their application or to actually use a second screen experience while they're live viewing a game? And so these are some of the things that we start to think about with segmenting audiences. And then we go a step further to the international audience. And with the international audience, there's no affinity towards a team or a home team. So what we're really looking at is player affinity. And that, again, creates another really unique opportunity to create personalized data and segment user experience in a really much more rich and meaningful way. There's also this idea that as a brand today, you have to provide both an emotional value and a utilitarian value. You have to solve problems in people's lives, and you have to stand for something when you do it. So what we like to do is a really simple exercise. When you're mapping out a customer journey, and if you've seen the stats, you know that most organizations are not actually set up to succeed in mapping out customer journeys at this point. But what we like to do is a really simple exercise you can try for your brand, spend a couple hours on it, and it's really just write out your top customer segments, who's your core and what are your growth opportunities on the top of a spreadsheet, and going down the side, write out every single touch point that they're going to have with your brand. That could be online, offline, write all of them. And when you do that, you have an opportunity to look at each touch point individually. And you can essentially say, what does a customer expect at this point in time? Write that down. Very simple, right? Then I could say, what is the right message that I could deliver to them at this time, and in what format? And that gives you your next kind of key piece of serving that customer. And then you could say, is there any data we can collect at this point? Is there an email address? Is there transaction data? Or is there more passive data or implicit data that we could capture potentially on that user? And then what do we care about as a brand? Are we looking for engagement here? Are we just looking for brand awareness? What are the metrics that actually matter to us? So taking this kind of approach and shifting from just saying, I want to target sports fans 18 to 50 who are X, Y, and Z, it's like, how do you take that to the next level, create real audience segments, think about growth segments that you can test, and then map out a customer journey so you know exactly where you want to take the brand and that customer in the future. The next thing is really connecting the promise. So in today's fragmented ecosystem, content is the glue. That's the thing that can bring your departments together, bring your brand together, and allow you to publish content that's meaningful to someone. So, like 3 years ago, Nike CMO said, we don't have to say just do it anymore. We don't even need to say our tagline because we actually empower people to go out and just do it, live their healthiest active lifestyle. And in New York City, in this screen cap here, there's something called Nike Training Club throughout the US, and Nike's literally empowering women throughout the city, giving them access to trainers, and it's an incredible community movement. It's very, very powerful. And all this content is posted socially, and so this becomes, it's not Nike saying we're in the business of personal training, but they are in the business of empowering people to just do it, which is very different than just saying what they are. So when you're thinking about your own brand, what is your brand promise? What do you stand for? What's your brand platform? How are you going to talk about that creatively? What's your top-line messaging? And then what are the messaging pillars within that? Think about 3 key pillars that might be valuable to have. If you're a retail brand, one of your pillars might be versatility, the ability to wear a staple piece by day and then go out at night for cocktails with your friends and keep that staple piece with you. So maybe versatility is something for a retail brand. So think about what those are, because that can bring all these different channels together, and it can motivate your teams to work together to try to give a key message to the customer. Next is making it personal. I fly a lot, and I was always focused on convenience, being able to book last minute and book cheaply. And Delta has done such a great job in creating consistency in my user experience that I stopped going to apps like Kayak to book my flight last minute, and now I exclusively go to Delta. I think McKinsey said the 3 C's of customer experience were consistency, consistency, and consistency. And so now I don't care about price as much. I actually really just care about the consistency of my experience. Powering insights. Talked about this a little bit, but what explicit data can we capture along the way? And I think if you really look at things like campaigns, sweepstakes, giveaways, in-store promotions, all kinds of things like that, you have a big opportunity to collect customer data. And you can collect this information and ultimately see how that could power other channels like email. But on the implicit data side, what is the data you can capture on your user that's going to say things about them that they haven't told you directly or explicitly? So what browse behavior influences a shopper of your retail store? What do we know about what they like? If you're business to business and your customer is browsing certain products or solutions, do you have an opportunity on the back end to pass that browse data behavior over into your CRM system so that your sales manager is much more aware and can probably better service that phone call? And then ultimately looking at insight as well. With insight, it's a gut intuition, it's creativity. Don't get bogged down by data. Use data to back up your intuition. Use data to maybe inform you and point you in the right direction. But don't forget about your creativity in the process. And then lastly is this concept of test and learn. And what metrics actually matter within a company. And again, I think at the executive layer, the metrics that really matter are brand lift, brand perception, revenue, and somehow between that top layer and what's going on the day-to-day grind of paid search and email and social media, there's a middle layer that's missing there. So again, if you can align your company or hire a freelancer or an agency or something to help give you an unbiased perspective on how to manage that data, or how to share credit and track metrics that matter, that's a real opportunity. The majority of businesses that we go into are still on a last-click attribution model, which means they're only tracking revenue and attributing it to the last click that took place. And so this is fundamentally flawed. You need to be able to shift your organization into an attribution model that shares credit. You need to be able to work cross-functionally within your company to share insights and consumer research. And then you need an ability to iterate and quickly deploy content, deploy new campaigns, optimize pages, and on and on and on. So I think, hopefully, if you map out your customer journey and you kind of really think about these 5 buckets and you get your other departments involved, I think you have a really good opportunity to continue to aspire to offer your customers a more connected experience. Thank you. Any questions? Awesome, thank you.